and I am going to welcome you all to this Selling Better Food session with the Better Food Traders. So we've got Natasha and Nikki here from the Better Food Traders Network, and we're also joined by Amy from the Manchester Veg Box people. So I'll hand over to you and I will disappear into the background.
Thanks very much, Anna. That's great. I'm going to share my screen now so that you can see my slides. And hopefully you can see that. Oh dear, yeah. Something happened there. Okay, so as Anna says, I'm here with Nikki, who's our Better Food Trader Network Coordinator, and Amy, who's of VegBox people in Manchester. And Nikki's going to keep an eye on the chat and the questions, and Amy's going to tell you about VegBox people and why being a member of Better Food Traders is important to them. Thanks very much for coming to this session. It's really great to see people if you're up for putting your videos on, but obviously fine if you don't want to do that. Better Food Traders is a new UK-wide network offering accreditation and support to ethical food retailers. We've grown out of a London-based fruit and veg scheme, which is an active campaigner for a better food system, growing communities. In this session, I'm going to talk about who we are, what we do, and how you can get involved in our approach to creating a better food system and how you can help us shape it. This talk's going to include various forms of interaction, so stick with us. We're going to use the chat, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and we're going to use polls. Before I get started, I'd like to get a sense of who's here and who you are. So if you could introduce yourself in the chat with your name, where you're zooming in from, and whether you're here as a food grower, a food retailer, or a food eater. Okay, I know the last one applies to all of us. You're allowed to put 2. So Nikki, are things still coming in from the chat?
Yes, they are, Tash. So we have Emma from Cultivate Oxford. Hi, Emma, who is a food hub. So they do a bit of growing and mostly training. We have Martin, who's a food eater and a sustainability geek. Hi, Martin. Victoria from Lancashire is a food eater. Lots of food eaters, as you might imagine.
Okay, brilliant. So, retailer, officially, by which I mean the top answer on my search engine, means a person or business that sells goods to the public in relatively small quantities for use or consumption rather than for resale. And interestingly, the example given is the big supermarkets have forced many independent retailers out of business. When I first did this search, I was a bit spooked by this example that came up, thinking that it must be a dastardly internet spy cookie that had tracked all my searches, found out who I work for, and come up with a supermarket versus small business example to fit in with my preconceived ideas and keep me in my own echo chamber. So I thought about how I could check this, and I searched it on my daughter's phone too. She's a nurse, so she's from a completely different field of work. But then I was equally perturbed to find out that this turns out to be the standard search engine example of the use of retailer in a sentence. So Better Food Traders exists to help those small, independent and values-based enterprises stay in business and to flourish by working together and learning from each other. And we want to add together all of our independent efforts so that we can tell our story with accurate data and real case studies. So I was delighted to find that a second definition of retailer is in fact a reteller of stories, because we want to help tell the story of radical retail, food businesses that centre social and environmental justice at every step of the supply chain. So here we go for my first ever poll. I'm going to ask you to answer a quick question in a minute. But first, a session about buying food definitely doesn't have the romance of a talk about being out in the fields, raising the crops or picking the fruit. And I think there are some lovely sessions at this conference about just that. But for most of us, retail or shopping is actually the crucial link between growing to eating. And that's because most of us have to shop or to visit a retailer to get our food. We may do a bit of food growing or even a lot, but nearly all of us who live in urban areas, which is well over 80% of us in the UK, get most of our food by buying it. So now I'm going to launch a poll so that you can just let me know whether you grow most of your food or buy most of your food. So please do vote at this point. Okay, so okay. So I think that's everyone. Right. So there's the results, folks. We can see that buying food is really significant. Talking about shopping or retail or buying stuff is not something I thought I'd ever end up doing. I find shopping an actually really boring experience. But it turns out that the mundane and familiar activity of buying food is central to changing our broken food system into one that is better. So we're going to face the facts on supermarkets. They control well over 90% of the grocery market share. Yes, they are convenient and sometimes cheap, but what else? Much of this information that I'm going to present now is taken from a really useful Oxfam report published in 2018. It's called Ripe for Change, Ending Human Suffering in Supermarket Supply Chains. The 8 largest publicly owned supermarkets in the world generated almost £1 trillion from sales in 2016 and over £17 billion in profit. And I'm just going to apologise to anyone who knows this report back to front, as I suspect maybe at least one person in this room does. But rather than reinvest in their suppliers, the farmers and growers, the same year, those supermarkets returned over £12 billion to shareholders in cash. Sainsbury's, major shareholder, I'm going to focus on Sainsbury's at the moment, but this is about all supermarkets. Sainsbury's major shareholder is the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Qatar, so there's not much local return on your pounds spent there. Executives' pay is extremely high. For example, 3 of Sainsbury's directors were paid over £2 million each just in the year 18-19, meaning that the highest paid in the company were paid well over 200 times more than the workers. In some supermarkets, this pay differential has been found to be over 1,000. Supermarket supply chain issues include labour rights abuses, the export of poverty, meaning that some workers in supply chains are paid nearly 50% below basic living income standards. Again, this is a problem across supermarkets, not only Sainsbury's. Supermarkets, of which Sainsbury's is the second largest chain in the UK, use their huge buyer power to exert continual pressure on their suppliers to cut costs and incur more of the risks of agricultural production. at the same time as dictating exacting and horribly wasteful requirements. I was picking apples this last weekend in an organic orchard in Kent this month. We gathered everything because greyed out produce is used for juice and chutney production, and also, interestingly, to feed our neighbours' alpacas. However, orchards around us were carpeted with perfect fruit left to rot. They're discarded by pickers because of being too small or misshapen for those supermarket quality standards. So, although the waste is on farm, much of it comes about because of the supermarket's creation of the idea of the perfect fruit or veg. Over the last few years, there's been a groundswell of interest in the sustainability of the food we eat, and lots of people are making decisions to eat more plant-based food. By 2025, it's estimated that around half the UK population will either be vegan, vegetarian or flexitarian. And this actually comes from a recent Sainsbury's State of the Market report. Many are attempting to reduce household food waste. In the UK, it's fallen by 7% in the last 3 years, and also to reduce the amount of plastic packaging they purchase with their food items. And of course, the exploding understanding of the climate emergency we're in, followed by the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, has underlined the brokenness of our modern extractive industrial food system. As conscientious citizens, we want to make the right choices, keeping the carbon footprint of food down by buying locally grown and seasonal food. But then we ask ourselves, is it better for the climate to buy organically grown food? Did those Lancashire tomatoes come from a fossil fuel heated greenhouse? Do I really want to line the pockets of huge corporate investors when I buy my broccoli? Was the grower of this banana paid a fair wage? It can seem impossible to keep abreast of what's going on and of what is important and of how to do anything about it. So I wondered if there are any questions that you ask yourself when you buy your food. If you could write one of them in the chat, then we can understand more about what's important to us as a group who are here right now when we shop for food. So if you would write in the chat now something that you often think about when you shop for food, that would be great. I wonder if you want to read out any of the answers, Nikki.
Absolutely. So Jossie said, where was this grown and by whom? In fact, there's a few people said that. Emma said, where the hell did they why the hell did they wrap this in plastic? Anna said, where has this come from? How's it been grown? Victoria said, how much power do I really have to change that broken system? Anna also said, do I need this? And Martin said, I'm always trying to balance the local, fair, kind, organic equation. And Elizabeth said, how is this fruit and veg grown? And Sarah said, is it in season? And Emma said, why chicken in we can grow here? Gives us a flavour.
Thank you. They're all really important questions, and there are so many of them. And wouldn't it be great if instead of you having to think endlessly about this, your food retailer took care of the answers to all of these questions and did that balancing act for you? So Better Food Traders is a network of ethically driven businesses selling fruit and veg and often other food in many parts of the UK, who are offering solutions to the complexity of working out where to buy truly good food. They're also offering solutions to farmers and growers who want to earn a decent living from their growing. Better Food Traders' commitment to their growers is long-term, stable and fair. The enterprises in our network sell agroecologically grown fruit and veg from farmers and growers who are as local as makes sense. And all enterprises have direct relationships with many, if not all, of the farmers who are supplying them. If you're an independent retailer whose business is based on valuing more than just profit, you can find out if you're eligible to join us by filling out a simple form on our website. If you're eligible, you'll be promoted straight away through a profile on our website and sent a full application form, which is assessed by a panel of representatives from the good food sector, together with a peer group of similar businesses. If you're successful, you'll become an accredited Better Food Trader and we'll welcome you to our membership. So I'd like to ask another question, which is, if you know of any ethical food retailers in your area who you think might be eligible to be a Better Food Trader, would you put their name in the chat now? There are lots of organisations around the country that we don't know about, and we want to be able to contact them or to know who they are so that we can find a way of encouraging them to become better food traders. At the moment, we are accrediting just veg schemes and community supported agriculture, just because we only launched in January and that's as far as we've got with our standards. The next set of standards are going to be for market stalls and then farmers markets. And we hope to add standards for shops by April 2021. So yeah, put in the chat any organisations you know about. Fantastic. It's great to see those. Can I just check that we're able to save the chat? Thank you. I can see. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you. I should have checked that at the beginning. Okay. Yeah, and if they occur to you over the course of the session and you haven't remembered them now, please just stick them in there. Thank you. So once you become an accredited member, you join a group of businesses who are working for change in the food system. Part of the point of our robust application procedure, it takes at least 4 hours to fill in the application form, not wanting to put anyone off, but we want it to be robust, because we're collecting the evidence to demonstrate the possibility of change to campaigners and policymakers. Evidence from Better Food Traders has already been used in submissions to the National Food Strategy and on government select committees. And I know Sarah from Sustain is here, and we feed in evidence to them for their campaigns too. So what do you get? As an accredited Better Food Trader, you gain access to our online work group, to free training and mentoring that you choose, and you become part of an expanding peer-led pool of resources and knowledge. And I suppose I haven't put this in my notes, but actually one of the most important things I think is knowing that you're part of this movement for change. Also, it's free to the first 50 members. We're roughly halfway through that so far. So if you know of someone, get them to apply soon. And another question I'd like to ask as well is what you believe the most important thing is that a network can offer its members, because we're really, really keen to learn as the Better Food Traders becomes more known about. We want people to shape it. We don't feel like we've got all the answers. So if you know something that is useful to a network, just put it in the chat if you have any ideas. Yeah, I think, yeah, funding to help producers change over to organic or organically grown is a really interesting point. I mean, one of the things that we are doing is talking to the Soil Association about creating standards that work for smaller scale growers, because it seems clear that the administrative burden and the pricing of organic standards that are needed by the Soil Association are a barrier to certifying as organic. Brand visibility, yeah, I mean, that's something we're really keen. That's one of our main aspirations as a network. Okay, I'm going to move on just to say a little bit about what some of our members have really appreciated about our network just in the last 8 months or so since we launched in January. So obviously we've had the COVID lockdown, and something our members have really valued, I know, was the peer support during that time, and ongoing actually as we move into more local lockdowns and maybe another national lockdown, who knows. So crises were shared and solutions discussed across the Better Food Traders. And I think Amy will say a little bit more about that. But we were able to get the word out as well about the resilience of smaller food retailers by being a place where journalists and researchers could come to get quotes and statistics and find people to interview and get photos. The photo on the left is a picture of Jean from Local Greens, who were one of the many small food retailers, a veg box scheme, my local veg box scheme, whose sales increased hugely this year as people turned away from the facelessness and empty shelves of supermarkets. There was plenty of information sharing across other related networks that really helped with weaving the connections that need to be made in this sector if we're to create resilient alternative routes to market. The picture on the right is a report that maybe you've seen, which was done by the Food Foundation in conjunction with us and the Community Supported Agriculture Network. So my next slide is actually a short film of Helen Woodcock of the Kindling Trust in Manchester and Danny Fisher of Better Food Shed in Dagenham, talking about cooperative sales and purchasing on a larger scale. And they were talking at a joint Community Supported Agriculture, Land Workers Alliance and Organic Growers Alliance webinar in June. So it was great earlier in the year to see all sorts of different organisations working together. So here's Helen and Danny.
The Better Food Traders Network is a really, if you are going to start kind of going down this route, then there's just so much stuff shared on the Better Food Traders Network, which is kind of set up for, so we're part of it as Box Scheme, and then various other, it was kind of set up by growing communities as well.
Set up by growing communities, and the vast majority of our Box Schemes are Better Food Traders. So
and it's like, in terms of not reinventing the wheel, that is totally the way to go. And you just get to share, so all these kind of questions of what to do with the markup, or what do we say about this, or how do we deal with the fact that we're having to shut the website because we've got doubled overnight customer inquiries, or like all of that has just been super helpful being part of that network.
Okay, so thanks to Helen, who I think is here at the conference giving a presentation somewhere else. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that I can hand over to Amy, who is going to tell you a bit about being a member of Better Food Traders and about veg box people in Manchester. So here we go. Over to you, Amy.
Thank you very much. I will check my sharing my screen works. Everybody see that okay? Can you hear me okay? So I can't see the...
Yeah, can hear you perfectly.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much, Natasha, for having for inviting me on to speak. So my name's Amy and I'm from Manchester Veg Box People. We're an organic veg box scheme and we're a workers cooperative. So we're just a small team. There's just five part-time staff, which you can see on the photo here. And then we've got a couple of casual workers as well and some volunteers. So as a cooperative, we share out all our tasks. So obviously time is of the essence, it's always in short supply. So we do everything together. So we do things like collecting the veg from the farms, we pack all the veg up, we deliver to our collection points, as well as all the administration, such as customer emails and writing recipes and newsletters. So it's a very busy working week. And we currently pack around 400 veg bags a week, which is actually, we've got over 500 active customers. So although we're a small team, we do cover quite a large area. We are mainly based in central Manchester, but we do go out into Cheshire one day a week as well. So we were set up back in 2015, so we're now into our 5th year, and we were set up by the Kindling Trust. Helen just spoke earlier on the video, so she's one of the directors of the Kindling Trust. And the Kindling Trust, for those of you who don't know, is a Manchester-based organisation. It works with farmers, communities and policymakers to incubate and support projects to bring about social and environmental change. They've got projects all along the food chain, right through from, they've got a farm start site in Stockport, where we get some of our veg as well from, and they've got a couple of acres there. So that's a farming site that allows people to had never had an experience of farming before to grow in a supported way. And our customers also go there for they do land army, where you can volunteer on the site. So all our customers are invited to go and join the scheme, where they can actually go and volunteer and help see their veg being grown. They run a commercial growers course as well, so you can get experience of actually commercially growing and making it a viable enterprise, as well as a community food hub where they do social prescribing, cooking and growing. And then also they help set up Veg Box People, so we're more in the distribution side of it. So all these projects together, they're helping to transform Manchester's food system, and they're demonstrating the potential for a radically different food economy, one that is both equitable and sustainable. And so this is a picture of Alex here. So he's one of our co-op workers, and here he is distributing our veg bags to one of our collection points. So one of the big things is what makes us different to other veg box schemes. I think at the moment there's been a rise, as Natasha sort of mentioned, about people jumping on the bandwagon a bit with veg boxes because of COVID. And what we want to is what makes us different from other veg box schemes. This is really how Better Food Traders has really helped us as well, because it's an accreditation, so it helps us to stand out, and our customers recognise the commitment to the principles of being a better food trader, which Natasha is going to talk about later. But one of the main things that makes us different is our commitment to sourcing fresh, local, organic produce. So we prioritise our most local growers, such as the Farm Start site in Stockport, as well as another local grower in Sale. So these are all just small market garden growers. And we meet regularly with our growers to do crop planning. So this is a fantastic way of sharing skills and knowledge amongst the growers, but also we can give them predicted numbers. So they've got a guaranteed market. They know exactly what grows, what sells, and they can share out the risks, and also gives an opportunity for small scale growers to try out new crops that they might not have done before. We also have, what makes us different is we use collection points rather than deliveries. So we've got 22 different collection points. We have a strong relationship with both universities in Manchester, and we have a collection point on campus. We also work with coffee shops, community food hubs, community garden centres, public halls, as well as pubs as well. So obviously this helps us distribute the food in a low carbon way, because we're not driving around door to door, but it also brings our customers into other businesses. So it's kind of a mutually beneficial thing. Obviously it helps support other businesses that share the same ethics as us. We're very committed to being affordable. We realise that a lot of organic produce can be expensive to people, and this can put them off. So we're very committed to making sure that our veg is for everybody, not just for those who can afford a higher price. So we start off at £6, and we're committed to that. It's a cheap start bag. So we're not driven by profits, but we're driven by the desire to change the bigger picture and create a different kind of food economy that's both equitable and sustainable. We also encourage healthy eating, and we always have recipes in our newsletters that are vegan and plant-based, so also we're helping reduce the carbon footprint that way too. There's enough about me talking about why we're so good, so I was going to show you a little video for what some of our customers have said. So this is our hashtag VegBox member stories. This is a really good marketing campaign that was run by another better food trader called Kentish Town VegBox. We were really inspired by their videos, so we decided to do our own. This has been a really good positive thing about being a better food trader, that you can find out what other traders are doing and you can share their successes, but also better food traders showed our videos on their platform, so it's even reaching more people, so it's been really good publicity. So let me just play this for you.
Hi, I'm Christina.
Hey, I'm Rob.
We've been VegBox customers for 9 months. It's been really great. We eat more seasonally now, and we take note of what's coming through, what's in season at the moment, and I myself personally have been more in touch with the growing side. I've started to volunteer with the Kindling Trust at Farm Star in Stockport, so that's been really great just to see from the ground up how it all happens.
I think it's the variety of the food we get, so kind of every week getting a new bag of vegetables, things that you make normally buy from the supermarket, and being able to cook different meals every week, and kind of our whole flat getting together to kind of get involved in coming up with new meals.
Maybe a courgette, but closely followed by Cavolo Nero.
I'll get tomatoes, fresh tomatoes.
So that was an example of one of the marketing tools that we've used, which we found out about through being a better food trader. Some of the other benefits, as Natasha mentioned, is just the knowledge that we're not alone in our struggle really to create a fairer food system. Sometimes you can feel very on your own and up against supermarkets, and but just knowing that there's other people that are passionate as well, and that are trying to do the same thing. It's just been really, really good. Obviously the logo that you can see there is just a really useful sort of tool, really, in the same way that we use the Soil Association logo on our newsletters and on any of our marketing and publicity material. We can use the Better Food Traders logo too. It just kind of acknowledges to customers and supporters that we are ethical and that we are sustainable, because obviously anybody can say they use local food or they source local things, but this actually kind of proves it, and just to have that kind of knowledge is obviously a really beneficial thing. One of the best tools that we found that we use really often is the Slack that you get when you're a better food trader. I don't know if people are aware of Slack. It's like a messaging app, but it's been great for tapping into sort of the knowledge and experience of other better food traders. Some things like making efficiencies, you can put a question out on Slack, and the other better food traders come and answer it. It's just a really good way of sharing knowledge. For example, when we're thinking about sustainable packaging, finding out what other box schemes use and where their supply is from, it just saves us a lot of time, and obviously stops us inventing the wheel, as Helen mentioned in her video. same things as like not having to research anything from scratch, that you can basically just get that experience, get that knowledge firsthand. We found a really good tool was in lockdown, we had lots of new customers and we didn't really have a welcome pack for them, but other Better Food traders did, and they shared their welcome pack. So we could all have a look at it and take out things that we wanted from that. So again, it saves us time. We don't have to research everything from scratch. And finally, the Better Food Trader Network and Growing Communities have put a survey out to customers at the beginning of lockdown. It was really useful. It not only saved us time in writing our own survey, but it meant we could compare data across all the Better Food traders, and we could see the similarities and differences. And then we could use a Slack group to ask other schemes what they did better than us in certain areas. So it's just been a really useful way of just gaining all that extra knowledge. If you've got any more questions, then please do fire away. Going to stop the share now. There we go.
Thanks very much, Amy. That was really great. And you said loads of really nice things about us, which was also really great. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen now. Yeah. Find the slide that I was on. Okay, next one. There we go. So the short video, we made a short video as another way to help our members during towards the end of lockdown, actually, when people found that their customer numbers or their sales levels were dropping off again as lockdown eased up. So we made this video as a way to help customers and other people realise that if they wanted a local food system to exist in times of trouble, then they needed to support it at other times too. So I'm going to play the film. Then that's the last of our films. Here we go. So we believe that buying your food from a Better Food trader becomes an opportunity to look at an old and familiar, rather mundane action in a new light. But it's not only up to us, and I want to make that really clear. So Julie Brown, who's the founder of both Growing Communities and the Better Food Traders, says this: "We've been suckered into green consumerism. Shifting responsibility away from governments and corporations leaves it all, plus the guilt, to the individuals and their money. Don't get me wrong, the fate of this phenomenal planet does ultimately come down to how much stuff we consume, but most of our impact is embedded in systems providing the basis of society: energy, transport, agriculture, industry, housing, education, healthcare. We can't directly control these through personal consumer choices, but the Better Food Traders operates in the space between individual and systemic, with businesses who are harnessing the buying power of citizens and bringing it together to support the type of food and farming system we want to see. So better food traders are enabling businesses to come together collaboratively and provide the evidence needed for systemic reform. Together, the better food traders want everyone who can to invest your money in good value food. Buy as much food as possible from food retailers whose social and environmental values are held as highly as their economics or higher. Better food traders are organisations who value farmers and growers who produce food alongside looking after our soils, air and water. They value the work that is done in getting that food to our forks 7 days a week, all year round. Better food traders do not push poverty down the supply chain, which is one of the ways supermarket supply chains keep food cheap. However, we know that the expectation of cheap food is part of the problem. And people with the lowest fifth of income in the UK would have to spend nearly half of that income on food just to meet the recommendations of the government's Eat Well guide. We're aware that our unjust economic system currently does not pay everyone enough to buy decent food, and that in this country, costs of housing, amongst other things, have become a burden that means that good food choices are scandalously out of reach for many. This is a key challenge for all of us in this sector, but it's a problem that primarily demands systemic change. Whilst we're waiting for that, some organisations are starting up solidarity approaches where customers who can afford it pay more for a box of veg to stand in solidarity with and subsidise a box of food for those who wouldn't be able to pay the full price. And so they're able to provide those better, cheaper boxes in order, but without penalising the farmers who are growing the food. Healthy Start vouchers are accepted by many of the better food traders, but there is much more work to make organic food and better food accessible to people on lower incomes. So I wondered if anyone here knows of a project that is finding ways of offering sustainably produced food at low prices to people who otherwise would not be able to access this food. It would be really useful if you could share your knowledge in the chat, if you know of any groups like this. Oh, that's great, Elizabeth. I was just about to put Granville in. Great. Fantastic to know. I mean, we are counting community supported agriculture as retailers in the way that they are selling food, Anna, and yeah, that's to see that there are some. Sorry, go on, Anna. What?
Yeah, it's not community supported agriculture. I always use this I use the term community grown agriculture.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So
yeah.
It's shaped by the members. So surplus can be sold for a donation, and it goes through community centres and other
That's
places.
interesting. I think it would be really great to collate the knowledge that exists in the UK on what people are doing on this issue. And I know some people are trying to do that at the moment. So thank you for your input on that, everyone. We're going to go to the Better Food Traders Principles, which are what our application form is based on. So if a business becomes an accredited Better Food Trader, they've answered a number of questions and provided concrete evidence to show that they meet these 9 principles that ensure that they're taking a number of social and environmental ethics into account. I'm not going to read them out. I'm going to give you a minute to read them yourselves, and I'm also going to launch a poll, which is going to ask you which one of these you think is the most important. I'm trying to do this. Okay, here we go. For some reason, yeah, there we go. My computer has become not very responsive. I don't really know why. Okay, here we go. Can you see the poll, people? So if you could vote out of these, which is the most important principle to you? And take a bit of time to think about it. I can see the votes coming in now. I'm going to give you maybe 5 more seconds to place your vote. Remember, there's no right answer here. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling now. And I'm going to share the results with you in a moment. But first of all, well, actually, we were going to go into breakout rooms, but actually, we're such a small group. I don't think we need to do that. What do you think? I think we can just discuss in the room. So I was thinking we could just introduce ourselves, tell each other which of the principles we chose, and then just say a little bit about why we chose it. So I think everyone can come off mute now. Do I need to stop sharing my screen to do that? Let's see.
Cash, are you going to show the poll result?
I'm going to show it at the end.
At the end, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to inhibit anyone. Okay, so there are actually 9 of us all together. Maybe we could go into 2 groups. Anna, would you put us into 2 groups, please?
Yeah, for how long?
Just for about 5 minutes, I think, or even 3 minutes, because we're actually running quite short of time, aren't we?
Okay, great. I'm going to set them up now.
Okay, so you're going to go into breakout rooms now, guys. Thank you very much to everyone. That was really nice to have a chat. I'm just going to quickly go back to sharing my screen because I want to get to the end so that people can ask questions if they want to. Where are we? Okay, so if you buy from a better food trader, so how do they meet the principles? If you buy from a better food trader, you know that over 50% of what your investment, as I'm putting it, is going back to the farmer, as opposed to the 8 to 20% that return to growers from a supermarket. And not only that, but the farmer's production system is sustaining the health of soils, ecosystems, and people. Better food traders trade fairly. They're fair to farmers, they're fair to the workers in the supply chain and the customers. As Ruben Chesters, founder of Locavore, Glasgow, says, I'm not sure that Jossie is still with us, but anyway, this is what Ruben did say in an interview for a Glasgow-based newspaper. We don't have anyone getting paid very well, but then again, we don't have anyone getting paid badly. And that's the point, really. Better food traders, not-for-profit ethos and short, often direct supply chains thrive on the radical idea of enough. If you buy from a better food trader, you're getting value for money in a much wider sense than just nutrients for your pound, though we expect there to be plenty of those too. Better food traders also support their local communities. You'll find them delivering food growers training, offering cost price veg and coordinating donations to food banks. They partner with community kitchens and other small local organisations, as well as creating decent jobs and volunteering roles for those who want them. And they've all agreed to share their business information so that we can demonstrate the impact of this whole sector in research and campaigns. So I was going to go back to the principles to talk about them again, but I think I'm going to skip that slide and just go to our Know Better Food training program, which I just want to talk a little bit about. So because many of us are becoming increasingly aware that food is a crucial point of influence towards a sustainable future, that's why Better Food Traders has been set up. We know that supermarkets have become the gatekeepers of a corporation-dominated and environmentally destructive trade in food. And we believe that individual product choice is not enough to change the food system, but that when you buy your veg from a better food trader, you join a growing group of people who are part of a movement, all pulling in the same direction, moving purposefully towards creating an alternative and better food system. So to spread the word and support behaviour change, we've launched Know Better Food, which is a free training in hosting peer networks who want to learn more about ethical food. Know Better Food takes an informal approach to learning. Volunteer hosts attend 3 training sessions, learning coaching skills, how to use collaborative design tools online, and gaining access to a set of resources. And then as a host, you'll then be supported to put your new skills into practice by running 3 sessions with a group of your own peers, who in turn can take the programme onto their own networks, should they want to. The first round of training started last week, and if you'd like to take part, you can check our social accounts, there's a blog on our website, or you can email if you'd like to put your name down for the next round of training. I'm here because I want you to join us, and there are 3 ways you can. You can buy your veg from a better food trader. You can find them on our website, and there are plenty more retailers expressing interest in joining. So keep your eye on the site if there isn't one near you yet. If you are a food retailer yourself, complete the eligibility form. It takes about 2 minutes. If you know a food retailer who could be eligible to join our network, tell them about us and us about them. And we'd love you to sign up for the next round of our peer group host training, Know Better Food. So thank you very much, everyone, especially those of you who have stuck through all the way till the end. And if you've got any questions, now's the time to ask them. And Vicky, if there are any questions in the chat that came up, let me know, because I wasn't able to keep an eye on it all the way through.
So Tash, I've got two that I've picked up. Amy's been gamely answering the questions for Manchester Veg Box people, so thanks, Amy. It's great. So Emma from Cultivate asked, does Buy British reinforce the nationalist rhetoric?
Oh, interesting question.
That is particularly given what we just were talking about in our breakout room, and then Elizabeth was interested to know if we are wanting the growers to measure soil health and plant health, and if so, what indicators are being used. So maybe that's saying something about the organic part of our accreditation standards.
Yeah, so I think, well, the first question from Emma, I think that is a really interesting question, and I have to say it isn't one that I've thought about particularly strongly. Though I think it's really important that we question anything that we might be doing that reinforces nationalist rhetoric. I suppose the criteria that Better Food Traders uses to measure the supply chain is really about the relationship to the farmer. And so we're looking to create as short supply chains as we can, to use as many of those as we can. And so we use a framework that growing communities developed, which is called the food zones. And that means that we're not actually saying we think that Britain should be self-sufficient in food, because we think it's really important to continue to support fair trade in other countries. But what we are looking for is a roughly 80-20% split. So the food zones looks at things in terms of both distance and relationships. So something that was wholesaled to us by a wholesaler, even if it had only been grown like 20 miles away, would automatically be classed in zone 4. Whereas something where we had a direct relationship with a farmer who was growing something within 20 miles, that would be classed as zone 3 or even zone 2. And the aim is not to make everyone buy, supply only British grown produce, but it's to create a balance that we think is both achievable and desirable within the UK. But we're really, really open for comments on that. So, if you've got some ideas around that, I'd love to hear what they are.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to unmute myself really briefly.
Yeah.
I find this really difficult because I tread the border between practitioner, right? I co-run a local food hub, right? Like, local food is at the core of what we do, and I'm also an academic and really conscious of the language that we use. So I'm just wondering, right? The Buy British campaign that was really big in the decade in the run up to Brexit. And I'm wondering how much of that, we accidentally reinforced certain tendencies. I don't know whether it matters in some of the new things, but you guys are rolling out a program that has the potential to replicate this through certain messages or not, right? That video, the ugly veg video, is just the cutest thing and completely not related to, where the veg comes from necessarily, right? It wasn't about provenance so much as caring about the veg itself. But I'm just really conscious of this stuff and the messages that we use within Cultivate as well. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It was mostly
No, I don't mind being put on the spot, especially with really important questions. Bring it on, I say.
Can I just add something, Tash? I mean, just anyone who runs a veg box, or especially with having a fruit bag, there are just some things you cannot grow in the UK. So, and that's just the fact. So trade is absolutely part of the food model, absolutely. And yeah, just to provide a bit of that balance on that and practicability.
The other question, I think, was about growing standards. So,
do you want me to reread it, Tash?
yeah, if you could, thanks.
Elizabeth, I don't know whether Elizabeth is still here, but
Yeah.
she's interested to know if we are wanting the growers to measure soil health and plant health, and if so, what indicators are being used. So that kind of speaks to, I think, to the organic part of our...
Yeah. So the standards that we're using is we're seeing organic as a currently existing standard for growers to use to show what kind of approaches to soil health and inputs are being taken. But we're very aware that there are plenty of growers out there who are growing to organic standards or even much higher, which is why I talked about agroecologically grown. So within our standards, we would allow a trader to be supplying up to 10% of their total spend on supply of fruit and veg that wasn't certified, but that they could demonstrate to us that they knew it was agroecologically grown, and the onus would be on the trader to tell us about that. So for example, there's one trader who supplies from, there's a Better Food trader who supplies from a project that they are very closely in touch with, and they know who trained the growers. It's actually another Better Food trader who trained the growers, and so they actually are in the same area as the growing project for their business. So we take that as, you know, they can guarantee to us that those growers are growing agroecologically, and so we're looking for people to be able to show us that they know, and we're not looking for specific. We're not using specific indicators ourselves because we feel that's beyond our scope. We're looking to accredit retailers. We're not looking to accredit growers, but we would expect the retailers themselves to have some reason to believe that their suppliers were doing the best they could for soil, air and water. Does that answer the question? Jossie, did you want to ask something? Do you want to just unmute yourself and ask it in person?
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to try and type this, and yeah, it was just going to get waffly. I guess, so I've heard from a number of retailers near me, and also I think you touched on it, and another talk I was in yesterday around the massive spike during COVID towards local independent shops, and then this kind of tailing off as things are normalizing. And I think you see that in a lot of purchasing decisions. If you take the cost aside, it's primarily about convenience and, you know, why are people going to the supermarkets rather than their local shops? And if they're returning to a work environment, maybe that's changing the kind of the time and motion that they have available to them. So I wondered, is there anything that Better Food Traders is doing or contemplating around almost like collective assets for the retailers to increase the convenience for shoppers, whether that's, you know, online sales platforms or the knowledge around how you create localized deliveries beyond veg box for your, you know, for the rest of your weekly shop, whether you're buying your ketchup or whatever it happens to be.
So, I mean, that's an interesting question. So what we see ourselves as is a kind of a hub where, a network where we are enabling people to talk to each other. So we want people to sign up to become a Better Food trader and talk to each other about what they're finding out about that. So we will do our very best to collate what people bring to us about their knowledge on that, if you see what I mean. But we don't see ourselves, the core team of Better Food Traders, as the fount of all knowledge. We can't be. And we know that the knowledge is out there with you guys who are running operations. And whilst, for example, VegBox people have learnt from Kentish Town about running a VegBox customers film marketing tool, then someone else will learn from VegBox people in Manchester about what they're doing, and that the knowledge will grow collectively through the peer sharing within the network. But having said that, we do have a specific marketing role, Kate, who isn't here at the moment, who is working on specifically creating marketing assets for better food traders to use. I mean, what other ideas? We just, you know, we want our members to feed in ideas, and we'll look at what we can do and also what might already exist and be being done within our network. And that is a bit of a waffly way of answering your question, I feel, but I suppose it's like trying to say, we don't think we've got all the answers. We think we will be co-creating the answers as a network. Nikki, I don't know if you want to add anything to that briefly.
Well, I mean, it's not quite the solution, but for example, we might have a Friends of Better Food Traders, for example, page on the website, which then, that's an idea we've been, so people who aren't selling fruit and veg, but are ethical retailers selling other types, or ethical producers selling other types of produce. And that might be something, if we work that through, that we might roll out and offer to other better food traders, for example. That's just one idea that we've come up with. So about how you find the other people in your local area who are doing good work but may not be selling fruit and veg. I don't know, but that's relevant as well, Tash. Do you want me, there's a few more questions, Tash. You want me to, yeah. So Emma's on fire today, really good questions. Emma said, I'm wondering what you'll do if this picks up momentum. Will large supermarkets be encouraged to join, and how will BFT police that? So that's definitely one to say about our accreditation criteria. And also Emma asked is if BFT is linked to the Open Food Network.
In terms of supermarkets, no, we will only accredit people who can show us that they're not for profit. And until supermarkets become not for profit, then that's not going to happen. Though someone like Hisby in Brighton, for example, or Unicorn in Manchester, or Better Food Company in Bristol are all potential contenders to become better food traders. And they're all, you know, they're similar to supermarkets in that you can go in there and buy a weekly shop, but they're not supermarkets as we know it. And so, you know, I'm hoping that by the end of March 2021, we will have created standards so that those types of organisations can join us. But I'm not classing them as supermarkets, as in the big nine, you know, that Kantar give us the info on and that sort of thing. What was the other question, Emma? You can't remember what you asked.
Is the Better Food Traders linked to the Open Food Network?
Oh, yes. Yes. So Open Food Network, we have been, having ongoing conversations. I would really like to be creating better food standards, better food trader standards for Open Food Network, and it's something that I am in contact with them about. It all got pushed. It all got pushed because of COVID. But for example, we shared that film across various the better food ecosystem, for a better word, which includes Open Food Network. We shared it in a way that people could remove the logo without a logo, so they could put their own logo on it, that sort of thing. And Open Food Network really jumped in with that and did use it. So yeah, we want to be as open and to sharing with other people in this ecosystem as we possibly can, because we think that's the way to push this movement forward. Any other questions?
No, I think.
Oh, good idea.
I think that's it. Although, can I just say a big thank you to Elizabeth, who's been putting some really useful information in the chat. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you all for answering all those questions. You know, they were actual genuine questions that we want the answers to. So yeah, thank you for all that shared knowledge that we all hold. Yeah, go for it, Emma.
Hang on, I'll just ask this. It's mostly about your funding model. So you said that the first 25, 50 sign-ups
50.
Yep, legit free or whatever. What happens after that? And then how long do you guys have funding for before you need to be bringing in enough to support? And what does that mean? And yeah, money.
That's a really good question, and one that I was just talking about earlier today. And we are halfway through, roughly, our first 3 years of funding from Esme Fairbairn Foundation. We're hopeful that they may fund us for another 3 years, but during that time we need to create a kind of segue into membership fees of some kind, and that depends on us creating enough value for our members, obviously. So over the next 6 months to a year, part of my job will be to assess how much value we've created for our members and how much they would be prepared to pay to continue doing that, and to find some sort of formula whereby we can continue and also have a little bit of input financially from our members, but probably not enough. It probably won't be enough to cover the whole costs. But I'm hopeful of that. I'm hopeful for that. So, you know, this is really a let's see what we can do at this stage, but we're optimistic that it can be a way of meeting needs of people in this retail sector, which is a bit overlooked. There's standards for growers and there's standards for individual products, but there are no standards particularly for retailers. I mean, obviously there's the B Corp standard, but that is a bit different to what we're trying to do, and we're being very specific to food as well. About the first, we said the first 50 members can be free because 50 is one of the outcomes. 50 members is one of our outcomes for our first 3 years of funding. So that just seemed like a good way to go about it. Okay, I don't know if anyone else has got any more questions. I know Nikki has to shoot off now, don't you, to pick up children. So thank you very much for being here and helping out.
Thanks everyone.
Bye, Nikki.
I really enjoyed that, everyone. Cheers.
No, you're still here, Martin.
Sorry, my ears pricked up. I thought we were doing a goodbye. Forgive me.
Yeah.
I have been listening.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Natasha.
Yeah, no, okay, no, it's a real pleasure. Lovely to meet you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, we are finishing. Bye, everyone. Thank you. That was so good and interesting.
No,
can you share the video with the conference attendees, do you think?
Well, I will do if Martin tells me how I can do that.
Natasha, can I ask you to ping me a quick email after this?
Yeah.
When you get a second, you've had a cup of tea, and I'll respond to it there and pick it up. We can chat.
Okay, brilliant. All right, that would be good. Thanks. Bye, Victoria.
Bye.
Lovely to meet you.
Good job,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.